All right, good afternoon, everyone. I thought I'd do another screencastify simply because this is what you're doing for your assessment and you're going to do a better job than myself. We've still got themes and techniques to cover. You'll find that themes, techniques, and characterization will cross over with each other. The great thing about that is that's exactly what should happen in your paragraphs when we get to assessments and trials and HSC. So in terms of themes, we're going to look at 5 main themes. So there are other themes than this in the text, and you can break these up into different categories of themes as well. So we're going to look at the concept of growth within Christopher, or him growing up as a character, the concept of trust, the link between truth, love, and safety, logic versus emotions, and perspectives of the absurdity of the world. Before we begin, though, I want to make it clear that a theme is a main idea within a text, is presented through the actions and words of a character and the events and the plot and the techniques which structure the language. So a theme has been purposely constructed by the author. So for those students that are sitting there thinking that us English teachers just make this up to make it sound good, think of the concept of a building. If you look at a brick wall, those bricks have been placed there specifically to create a certain pattern that holds strength. Same idea as a novel. An author sits down, constructs the character, constructs the voice, and tells the story. And if anything, this is one of the clearest modern day texts that really have a clear structure, and you can see the planning that went into it before it was written. So let's jump into it. All right, your job. 1, you've got to listen and watch this, but you have to expand on the notes in relation to what I say and your knowledge. I want you to think of every dot point that goes up there is a topic sentence or a main idea. Your job really is to write that next sentence, the explanation. So what would come next? Then after that, really the main thing is picking up quotes. This is a close study of text. So the more you can actually show that you've closely looked at that text, then please go for it. I've got a link down the bottom there. I've taken most of these notes from this website. Not because I'm lazy, but because it was a good summation and it brings a lot of other ideas together. So the first theme, growth or growing up. This is called a Bildungsroman novel. What that means is that's a particular genre that it's written in. So we have, thriller genres, murder mysteries, etc. But in reality, this is Bildungsroman, and that's a German term for the idea of a coming-of-age text. So if you think of, a teen movie or anything like that, it's usually a Bildungsroman novel where a character starts off in an immature phase. By the end of the novel, they've grown into a concept of adulthood. For Christopher, though, it's a very different journey than what you would normally expect. All right, at the beginning, Christopher's world is limited and it's defined. He doesn't question the bigger issues in his life. So he has his bus route that he catches to school. He has his lunchbox set out. He has his routine written down. He knows what he's doing on Saturdays. He has his money set aside to go down to the shop, etc. At the beginning of the novel, Christopher is not so much an adolescent, but really a child. He has small ideas. The fact that he talks about his street as his neighborhood, and even when he goes to knock on the doors initially to hear about Wellington, he has really limited knowledge of who his neighbors are. All right, so his illusions or understanding of the world is shattered dramatically when he finds out his father has lied to him. So straight away there, that's the catalyst really that begins his transition from childhood to adulthood. If you think about the fact that at the beginning he's trying to solve the murder mystery of Wellington's death, it's a very immature thing. So rather than grieving that his neighbor's dog's been killed in a horrendous way, he goes in and starts thinking about how can I solve this crime. So once he finds out about the letters from his father, he then starts, or the letters of his mother, I should say, he then really starts to have a deeper connection with his understanding of the world. Previously to this, though, he does have the meeting with Mrs. Alexander. That should have been a catalyst, but it wasn't. And it wasn't simply because Christopher's limited understanding of the world. When we get to trust, think about how well does he know Mrs. Alexander, and then why doesn't he trust her at the beginning? So by the end of the novel, though, he has grown and expanded. He's grown simply by being able to travel to London, particularly the scenes when he's at the train station, how he's trying to buy the ticket, how he gets to London himself on the train. But the fact that he has to hide in the little tray areas for his luggage shows that he's still limited in many ways, but he's breaking free. So by that breaking free, he actually gains in confidence. From this, he goes on to achieve his A levels and moves to university at the end. For those that don't know what the A levels are, they're the equivalent of the HSC. Now, remember, Christopher's only done this in one subject. So it basically says that when it comes to other subjects, Christopher's not going to have the possibility to do it. You would imagine he wouldn't be able to pass the English HSC with his inability to look at emotions. And so, for example, if he was writing about human experiences and Billy Elliot, he wouldn't be able to acknowledge the changes in Billy Elliot through that movie. Billy Elliot pretty much is a Bildungsroman text as well, so feel free to use that term. He doesn't grow emotionally, but he does grow in his ability to adjust. If you think of that, he loses trust with his father. By the time you get to the end of the novel, he has been able to adjust to the fact that his father's lied to him, and he's able to love him again still. So, your Peel question. Could Christopher can be considered a mature adult by the end of the novel? There's yes and no answers for this question. So it comes down to how do you actually justify your point? So think of which stance you want to take and what evidence have you got to back it up. All right, moving on quickly. Trust. Christopher has an inability to understand social cues. This means that he lives in a world of black and white, and people are categorized in relation to trust. So Christopher can't understand when people are telling a joke. If you think of the technique of images throughout the book, right at the beginning, Siobhan presents him with those faces. They're faces that you should present to a young child in order to understand social cues, but Christopher hasn't picked that ability yet. So the way he goes about developing whether he can trust people or not is watching their actions. And so Christopher initially does not trust someone new until they give him a reason to do so. Think about his description of the new teachers. He will sit against a wall for 2 weeks and watch a new teacher closely. Think about the fact that he didn't trust Mrs. Alexander, for example, at the beginning, simply because he didn't know her. Remember the first time they met, she invited him in for tea. She went inside to get the biscuits, etc. He waited for 6 minutes and then took off because he really didn't understand that he could trust her or not. Even the fact that she was basically written as an old sweet lady, society tells us they're trustworthy. He doesn't pick up on those social cues. So Christopher, though, when trust is lost, there's no limit to extremes. If you think about the moment that Christopher finds the letters, he initially doesn't trust his father. His father tries to regain the trust by telling him the truth. The fact that Christopher wants to find out who killed Wellington is a basis of truth. Once he finds that truth out, though, he realizes the trust is gone. And his extreme reaction is if his father can kill Wellington, he can kill Christopher as well. So that's why he escapes. That's why he goes behind the garden shed. And then he logically works out that the only place he can go to then is his mother's place. So notice he doesn't want to get back to his mother for an emotional connection, etc. That is simply just his only option. On that, his blind trust towards his parents is naive. That should be is instead of in, and limits his trust in others. So right at the beginning of the story, every decision that's made simply is put through his father. When he finds out the truth about his mother, he instantly trusts everything she's saying in the letters and goes with it. This limits his ability, particularly for Mrs. Alexander, when they connect. And then the kind of irony behind trust. Christopher talks about the concept of trust and truth. Does he always trust himself and what he's saying? So Christopher is known as saying that idea as I always tell the truth. So when Siobhan confronts him a few times and says, are you telling me the truth? He, with no emotion at all, says, I always tell the truth. But once he starts looking into the death of Wellington, he actually starts lying to himself. So he talks about the concept of white lies and then the need for having white lies. And then particularly when his father tells him that he's not allowed to investigate the murder, he really breaks down what his father says in order to break that trust and go around the truth. Now, if you read that section again of what Chris was saying, he is well aware of what he's doing. It's not connected to his autism and his misunderstanding. He's going out of his way to purposely misunderstand what his father said. So, what is the novel trying to say about the concept of trust to the reader? This is where it comes down to you. So think about what's being said and where we're up to. All right, it's almost up to my limit of recording, so I'm going to stop there and I'll jump into the next one.